Interest rates almost doubling, property selling above market value, and a looming economic recession on the horizon leads to the question, should you buy a property in Miami in 2022 or wait until the market cools down? Let me first start off by saying that this is by no means a yes or no answer. I know many of you guys watching out there want it to be, but there's just way too many variables to make that even a possibility. Instead, what I will try to accomplish in the course of this video is to explain why it may not be a good time to buy in Miami and why it still may be a good time to buy in Miami. Keep in mind that for everyone, this is going to be different because for some of you out there, it may be the perfect time to buy real estate. Sounds confusing already? I know. So let's discuss. As always, I'm Steven Vargas from the Vargas team. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell if you enjoyed today's content. Okay, so we briefly talked about interest rates skyrocketing over the past few months, and this alone may be reason enough for you to pump the brakes on buying and just wait until the market cools down. But why is this so important? A rise in interest rates makes the payment on a mortgage much higher than it was just a year ago, making buying far less appealing. But if we're being honest, this is far less about wanting to buy and more about being able to buy. What do I mean by that? You see, every 1% increase in rates is equivalent to about 10% less of a purchase price that you can qualify for. And in Miami, in an area where the average home price is already higher than the national average, this is a huge factor. The drastic change in interest rates has led, unfortunately, many buyers to be priced out of the market. Look, I know that it's easy to say that interest rates have gone up, and because of that, I'm going to put off buying until the market cools down, but it's just not that simple. If you're going to wait to buy, then that likely means you're going to have to rent a place in the meantime. And in Miami, places and in some areas, rent has doubled. And do you know what the interest rate on renting is? Well, it's 100%. So yeah, it's easy to knock down a 5 to 6% interest rates when rates were 2 to 3% just a year ago. But when you realize how much rent you're going to have to pay and how none of that benefits you in the long term, then maybe buying may look as a better alternative. Of course, there are always going to be exceptions to this, and some people renting makes more sense right now. But to me, that's really just going to depend on your financial situation or what stage in your life you're in. But I would say for the most part, for 8 out of 10 people, for example, buying right now is probably going to make more sense than renting. And since we're on the subject of rents, let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit more. Rents in some areas in Miami, as I mentioned previously, have doubled, but on average, they've gone up about 30%. And as we continue to enter into a renter nation, the question then becomes, are rents going to continue to go up or will they ever come down? Now, let's face it, people were buying or are buying because of FOMO, fear of missing out, as they don't want to be caught paying these ridiculous rental rates when they could have locked in a 30-year fixed mortgage. What does this all boil down to? Well, if you're okay with accepting the fact that rents may continue to go up and you're willing to sacrifice the next few years by paying such a high rate in hopes the sales prices may go down, which in turn may allow you to buy into a property and get some equity into it, then yeah, wait and let's see if that happens, and renting right now is probably the better option for you. Another reason to wait is if you think that you may move in the next 2 to 5 years. So then yes, of course, you should wait. Also, if you buy now and think that you may need to offload the property in the very near future for any other reason, then buying, of course, right now is probably not the best fit for you. The school of thought right now, and really how a lot of buyers are making sense of a purchase in the midst of everything that's going on, is that many buyers are unwilling to gamble on rental rates. Sure, your rate can stay the same for the next few years, but with everything that's going on in the Miami market, it doesn't look like it's going to be. Especially when you consider the fact that mortgage prices, even with the increase in rates, are still lower than the rental equivalents. So if saving money on a monthly basis is a huge concern for you, then staying in the rental market is likely going to be a bigger gamble than buying at this time. On the flip side, having cash on hand in a real estate downturn is a huge advantage, and let's not pretend that it isn't. In fact, this is where a lot of people build wealth in their lifetime. I never think about markets as being good or bad. I've been doing this real estate thing long enough to know that the market is good or bad depending on who you ask. Real estate investors love down markets. And in fact, many of my investors are going to keep me super busy if we do get into a downturn market because all they're going to be doing is scooping up as many properties as they can. A lot of those investors out there are praying for a real estate collapse, and you all know who you are. And as messed up as that may sound, it is the truth. The simple fact is that if you're looking to build wealth long term, buying in a real estate downturn is one of the best ways to do it. So if you're able to buy during a recession or a downturn, this is the best possible way to accomplish wealth on a long-term basis. So if you fancy yourself as someone who wants to get into the real estate investing side and make that as main source of your income and build wealth in the process, then my advice to you is stack your cash and refrain from buying right now. As always, there's exceptions to this rule. So if you're a real estate investor right now and you found a good deal, then you shouldn't just walk away from it because you may or may not get a better deal in a few months or down a couple years down the road. As they say, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So buy it if it's a good deal now. Now, as great as all that sounds, not everyone has that goal. Not everyone is looking to build wealth through real estate. Some people are just simply trying to grow their family and build a business. They don't want to worry about the fact that rental rates may increase year after year, or worse yet, that at any given moment their landlord may decide to sell their home, causing them to have to uproot their family and find another place to live in the middle of a housing shortage. So if these things that I mentioned are causing you to lose sleep, then buying, in my opinion, is the right thing for you to do right now. If you don't mind any of what I just mentioned and you're cool with moving and being uprooted and you're young enough to have to deal with that because you feel like you could get a better deal down the road if prices go down, then sure, wait to buy until the next real estate cycle. But the million-dollar question is this: is overpaying for a property worth it? No matter if you're in a seller's market or a buyer's market, you never want to be in a position where you have to overpay for a piece of real estate. Yet, over 80% of all properties sold in 2021 sold for more than what they were listed for. Blame this on FOMO and inventory shortages, as that had a lot to do with this, but nevertheless, some buyers were paying 5, 8, sometimes 10% or more over market value just to secure a property. And that all sounds crazy, but believe it or not, many of them, thankfully, have gotten a lot of that value back in appreciation over the last 12 months. But that's never a guarantee and almost always a gamble if you're gambling on appreciation. So that's great and all, but what do you do? Okay, do you overpay just to get into the game? Obviously, if you can minimize that or avoid it completely, do that. You never want to overpay to get into the real estate game. But what I would say is that in some circumstances, overpaying may be okay. Not ideal, but okay. And it's really going to depend on how much you overpaid. Let me explain. Aside from the main reasons that I mentioned with rental rates increasing, wanting to establish roots, etc., just look at it from a practical standpoint. Let's say you bought a home and you overpaid 3 to 5%, which sucks. It really does suck. But what if you can rent that home for higher than what your monthly carrying cost to maintain that home? I'm talking about your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, everything. Let's assume that this home in this example will cost you about $3,000 to maintain with all of that I just spoke about. But you can rent this same home on the open market for $4,000 a month. To me, this is a good position to be in and not one that many people consider when buying a property. Let's say that in the worst case scenario, the market goes down, you lose 10% on the value of your home, and you also lose your job, and you can no longer afford to live there and pay the mortgage. Of course, you can't sell because you're upside down on your mortgage. So what do you do? Well, you could still rent that property for $4,000 per month, and that's more than your monthly carrying costs. So in this example, not only will you profit from your home, but you also get the benefits like the principal pay down from the tenant and tax deductions. Well, some of you may say, well, if the real estate market goes down, don't rents go down with it? And that's not necessarily true. Some markets, rents actually stay the same or increase during a market downturn. High-end luxury markets, for example, don't favor as well as blue-collar and middle-class markets because at the end of the day, people need a place to live. And if they can't afford the mortgage, they're going to look at renting, causing many people to look at more affordable options. And if this all happens at once, people start looking at other options that were probably a little bit more affordable, and that compresses certain markets and certain sectors of the rental market. Harry Macklowe once said, "I've never had a bad deal. I've had good deals that, because of timing, haven't worked out." And in there lies the secret. If you could do your research beforehand and find that rental rates are higher than your total monthly carrying costs, and if you buy in the right market, then you can always wait it out and sell on your own terms when the time is right. And of course, when you can sell for a profit. If you find that rental rates are not as high where you're buying and you're buying very high end, then waiting, of course, is not a terrible option. My point is this: the answer to this question, as you can see, is not as clear as you would expect. As rates go up, the media starts to pump out recession headlines and fear starts to set in. But to me, the biggest thing I want to get across in this video is that don't let that fear be reason enough for you not to buy. Don't let anyone make that decision for you. Take the decision in your own hands. Research the market, take inventory of your own financial situation, and work with a great real estate agent, and then formulate your own opinion based on data and facts and not fear and rumors. I hope that this helps you along on your journey and brings you one step closer to making that decision if you're stuck in between what you should do. And if you're, of course, in need of a good real estate agent or real estate services in the Miami area, then of course, feel free to reach out to me or my team and we'll be happy to help any way we can. As always, like the video, click that subscribe button and ring that bell to help support the channel and me. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. God bless.